Let's welcome in ESPN MMA reporter Ariel Helwani. Ariel, where does this beef come from between Cris Cyborg and Dana White?
Well, Ryan, I think the issue really started around 6 or so years ago. That's when the UFC decided to open up its own women's division. They brought in Ronda Rousey. She was the face of it all. And as Ronda Rousey had some success early on, Cris Cyborg was fighting outside of the UFC, and there was this large demand to have them fight each other. And finally, after a couple years of the fans asking for this fight, the UFC struck a deal with Cris Cyborg. However, they wanted her to come down from 145 to 135, and that was a big ask. So she tried to go down to 140, and in fact, your program highlighted her troubles making that weight. So I think there were a lot of bad feelings. The Cris Cyborg team didn't think that the UFC was setting her up for success by making her go down to 135. And of course, things have been said by both Ronda Rousey and Dana White that have clearly hurt Cris Cyborg's feelings.
Yeah, we showed some of that in the piece before this. The idea that she mentions he's been bullying her. What does she feel is going into White's comments about her? You talked to her the other day.
Well, yes, that's right. I spoke to her on Monday, and she's talked about this before. Around 5 years ago, before an event in Baltimore, UFC 172, Dana White spoke about how she looked in a dress at an award show, and she has resurfaced this video as of late and has talked about how it has led to bullying for her daughter, online bullying. Her mother back home has had to deal with things as well. She feels like people have attacked her because of these comments and comments that other people have said about her in the public eye. And so there's just some tense feelings between the two, and they've never been able to sit down and speak about them and clear the air. She's asked for a public apology. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I think what would probably be the best if they could sit down face to face and just talk about how they're feeling. That's what she's asking for. Perhaps now that her contract is up, it will allow for that moment to occur.
And Ariel, I know you've covered the fight game for a long time. We know how the fight game can be. We know how insults are tossed around from time to time, and sometimes it's hard to figure out, is it promotion or is it something more? What do you make of this situation in that vein?
There's a very strong case to be made that, all good promotion is good promotion, if you know what I'm saying, like for the fight itself. All's fair in love and fight promotion, I like to say sometimes. And, there's a recent fighter named Ben Askren who fought earlier this month. He had a bit of a feud with Dana White, and that was good for the UFC and for Ben Askren. Rising tide lift all boats. But this one feels different because Cris has told us time and again that she feels badly about these comments. Like, these comments have hurt her and her family. And so with it continuing on and with it seeming like Dana White, for whatever reason, is not willing to put her over, quote unquote, to steal a pro wrestling phrase, it feels like those feelings just aren't going away. And so it feels almost counterproductive at this point. Right now, you could say, all right, Cris is in the public eye. She's trying to draw attention to herself. She's trying to get a new contract, all these things and more. And there's something to be said for the rematch with Amanda Nunes being even bigger down the line than the first fight. I agree with all of that. But at some point, I feel like this rhetoric, this narrative needs to go away. Let's promote Cris Cyborg as one of the best female fighters of all time, one of the greatest fighters to ever step foot in the cage, because she's a great fighter and she's also a great person.
A couple seconds left here, Ariel. What opportunities are presented to her now that her contract's expiring?
I think Cris Cyborg is going to be the most coveted free agent in the last 10 years since Dan Henderson went to Strikeforce. PFL, Rizin, One Championship, Bellator, they will all come after her, and they're all going to throw a lot of money her way. The biggest fight for her is in the UFC. That's where she stands to make the most amount of money, but make no mistake about it, every promotion under the sun, and maybe even boxing promoters, are going to come her way.
Wow, a lot of opportunities could be in the offing for her. Ariel, thank you.
Hello, everyone. It's Ariel Helwani. I just came here to thank you for watching our ESPN YouTube channel. It's the best. You know what else is the best? The ESPN app. You can get highlights, analysis, all that stuff and more. And if you want premium content and live streaming sports, there's only one place for all of that. It's ESPN Plus.